Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are going to tackle a phrase that I guarantee every single person listening has heard, 1,000 times. Probably more. You are what you eat.
It's the ultimate nutrition cliche, isn't it?
Right. And usually when we hear that, our mind immediately goes to what? Waistlines, cholesterol numbers.
Calories, macros.
Or maybe if you're like me, you're thinking about that terrible afternoon energy crash you get after, a big bowl of pasta for lunch. It's all very physical, very biological.
Exactly. The conversation is almost always about fuel. You put premium gas in the car runs better. You put sludge in, the engine starts to knock.
But today, we are going to flip that concept completely on its head. We're leaving standard biology behind, well, mostly behind, and stepping into something much, much stranger.
Yeah, we're moving way past calories and macronutrients today.
We are looking at a stack of material based on excerpts from Recording 80.mp3, and it specifically references a work called Ultimate Reality, or in the original Hungarian, Végzővalóság by Bela from 1999. And the question this source poses is, honestly, a little rattling.
It is, it is.
Asks, what if you are what you eat applies to your soul, to your energy field, just as much as it applies to your physical body?
It's a really provocative premise.
Yeah.
The source material essentially argues that diet is a metaphysical act. It suggests that the human body isn't just this, biological machine burning fuel. It's a receiver.
Like a radio tuner.
Exactly like a radio tuner. A receiver for higher intelligence. And the clarity of that reception, it argues, depends entirely on the vibrational frequency of the fuel we put into it.
Vibrational frequency. Okay, that's the key term. If you take nothing else away from today, just hang on to that phrase. We're going to be talking about the sun as a kind of battery, the law of entropy applied to your dinner plate, and here's where it gets really intense. The sources claim that when we eat meat, we are literally ingesting the terror of an animal.
It's a heavy concept to unpack for sure. It combines, physics, biology, and some very esoteric spirituality. It's basically trying to bridge the gap between thermodynamics and our emotions.
So let's get into it. The mission today is to try and understand this invisible side of food. And I want to be clear. No judgment on what you had for lunch. If you're eating a burger right now, don't panic. But we are going to look at what this text says about how that lunch might be affecting your consciousness.
Precisely. And to understand that, we have to start at the absolute top of the energy chain, the ultimate source.
The sun.
The sun. According to Balaz's text, sunlight is the highest form of energy available to us. It has the highest vibrational frequency. It's pure, unadulterated energy.
And the text says that consuming plants grown in sunlight elevates our own vibration because we're getting closer to that source.
That's the core idea.
Okay, but here's my first question, and I think a lot of people might wonder this. If the sun is the ultimate battery, why can't we just, go stand outside and charge up like Superman? Why do we need to eat at all?
That's a very logical question. If energy is the goal, why use a middleman? The source actually addresses that exact limitation. It notes that the human physical body, at least in its current state, isn't built for that kind of voltage.
We can't handle it.
We can only absorb a very small amount of energy directly from the sun through our skin. We're not solar panels. Not yet, anyway.
So we burn out.
We'd burn out or just fail to process it. We need a transformer, a medium, to capture that high voltage energy and step it down into a form we can actually use.
And that transformer is the plant kingdom.
Correct. The plant sits in the sun, absorbs that high frequency energy, and converts it into physical matter. It locks the vibration into its cells. But, and this is a really crucial point in the text, this is where the law of entropy comes in.
Entropy. Okay, high school physics refresher. That's the idea that systems tend toward disorder, right? Or that energy dissipates.
Exactly. And the source applies that law directly to the food chain. It explains that anytime energy conversion happens, sunlight to plant to us, the conversion is never 100% efficient.
Right, you always lose something in the transfer, usually as heat, like a light bulb getting hot.
The text puts it pretty bluntly. We cannot use the consumed energy with 100% efficiency. Part of it is definitely lost. So the sunlight hits the plant, and that plant is already a step down in vibration. It's a copy of the original.
High quality, but it's not the source.
Right. It's already suffered a slight drop in frequency.
Okay, I'm following the cascade. Sun is level 1 pure energy. The plant is level 2 captured energy, slight loss. Now, where do animals fit into this? Because typically we think of them as being higher up the food chain. We're the apex predators.
In a biological food web, yes.
Yeah.
But in this vibrational hierarchy the source is proposing, the animal is actually a significant step down.
Oh, interesting.
The text describes this cascade: sunlight to plant. Then an animal eats the plant. That's another conversion.
Another round of entropy.
Another round of entropy. Another step where the signal degrades. The cow eats the grass just to build its body. It burns off a lot of that energy just walking around, staying warm. So the energy that's left stored in its meat is a copy of a copy.
So in terms of signal quality, if the sun is a live concert, the plant is maybe a vinyl record, and the animal is what? A cassette tape recorded off the radio.
That is a fantastic analogy. The source argues that this creates a gradual decrease in vibrational frequency. So by the time a human eats that animal, they're consuming something that's gone through multiple stages of energy loss.
So the source explicitly says meat has a lower vibration than a plant.
Oh, yes. Unequivocally. It says meat already has a lower vibration number than the plant ripened in sunlight. And the argument is, when we build our bodies out of that meat, we're integrating those relatively lower vibration elements into our own structure.
Let's unpack that structure part, because this is where a skeptic might say, hold on, a steak, a salad, my stomach breaks it all down into amino acids, carbon, calcium. Atoms are atoms, right?
That's a great point. If the source didn't address it, I'd be skeptical too.
Yeah.
But it anticipates that. It makes a really specific distinction. It says, naturally, it is not the vibration of the basic materials, like carbon or calcium. That changes.
Okay, so the atoms themselves are neutral?
Exactly. A carbon atom is a carbon atom. What changes, according to the text, is the vibration of the structural composition.
Structural composition, what does that mean?
Think about how those atoms are arranged. The text lists things like tissues, bone structures, muscle fibers. The argument is that the complex arrangement of the matter, the way those atoms are glued together into the specific pattern of a cow, holds a lower resonance than the pattern of a plant.
That is a fascinating distinction. So it's not the brick, it's the wall. The architecture itself carries a frequency.
That's it. The pattern of the animal tissue is denser, lower frequency. And the consequence of building your body out of these lower vibration structures, well, that's the core of the receiver theory.
I love this analogy. This is the part that really clicked for me. The text compares the human body to a radio receiver.
It does. And it fundamentally shifts the purpose of the body. The source says it is not the problem with the transmitting station, but with the receiver.
And the transmitting station in this metaphor is what?
It implies higher worlds, intuition, spiritual insight, subtle information that's constantly being broadcast. The universe is speaking, you could say.
So the music is always playing, the signal is there, but our radio
might be full of static. If we build our bodies from low vibration materials like meat, in this argument, our physical vibration drops. We become dense. The source says this makes us less suitable to perceive or grasp information coming from higher worlds.
So we desensitize ourselves. We dull the instrument. We're walking around with a cheap, rusty antenna wondering why we can't pick up the signal.
Precisely. And the text brings up children in this context, which I thought was a really interesting point.
Oh, right. The idea that kids see things.
Yes. It asks why children often seem more sensitive, maybe even clairvoyant. The source attributes this to the fact that a child's body hasn't been saturated yet with toxins or the density of low vibration foods. Their receiver is still pristine.
They haven't had decades of interference built up yet. They haven't eaten 20 years worth of burgers.
Exactly. But as we age and change our diet, we act as the agents of our own dulling. The text says we are the ones who gradually blunt the sensitivity of our body and brain. We turn down the volume knob on our own intuition.
It's a compelling thought, but okay, so we have this spiritual or vibrational dulling, but the source doesn't stop there, does it? It gets into the very physical reality of modern farming.
Right. This is where the metaphysical meets the industrial. Because even if you don't fully buy the vibration argument, the text points out that modern meat isn't just meat.
It's a chemical cocktail.
The text is very critical of large-scale industrial farming. It talks about growth hormones, antibiotics.
Things used to make animals grow faster and keep them from getting sick in those crowded conditions.
Correct. But the argument is that when we consume the meat, we are also consuming that chemical load. These are foreign agents.
Which just feels like more noise for the receiver in this model, more interference.
Exactly. Chemical interference on top of the structural interference.
Oh.
But, and here's the pivot that really defines this text, The source suggests that the chemicals are actually the lesser of two evils.
Yeah. Here's where this deep dive gets, well, honestly, pretty dark. We have to talk about the astral impact, because up until now, we've been in physics and chemistry. Now we're talking about emotion.
This is the twist. The text posits that emotions aren't just feelings, they are energy signatures. They are real things that can stick to matter.
And it brings up this idea of telepathy among animals to explain it.
It does. It's a pretty stark claim.
Yeah.
The source asserts that animals are in constant telepathic contact with one another, a kind of shared consciousness that we maybe build in ourselves.
So in a slaughterhouse, even if the animals can't physically see what's happening ahead of them,
They know. The source says they are, without exception, aware of the impending horror.
that's a terrifying thought.
It paints a very vivid, very disturbing picture. It describes animals screaming and panicking because they're connected via this mental link. They feel the death of the others. And the result of that collective panic is what the source calls an astral energy.
The energy of terror.
Yes. It says their bodies become permeated, soaked with the low astral vibration of terror and fear. It literally stamps the physical tissue with an emotional signature.
So we're not just talking about adrenaline in the blood, which is a biological reaction. We're talking about a metaphysical residue of fear that attaches itself to the meat.
That is the claim. The source says these vibrations remain connected to the meat for a good while. It's a sticky energy. It doesn't wash off, doesn't cook out.
And then we eat it.
We consume it. The quote here is powerful. We consume the wavelength of fear and terror. And we do this, for the most part, completely unaware. We have no idea we're ingesting this trauma along with the protein.
So what does that do to a person? If I eat a burger that's permeated with astral terror, do I suddenly become terrified?
According to the source, yes, but in a more insidious way. It manifests as unexplained symptoms. The text lists uncontrollable and unverifiable animal fear, feelings that don't seem to have a cause.
So you might feel anxious, but you can't figure out why. You look at your life, your job, your family, everything's fine. But that feeling is still there, that dread.
Exactly, a latent sense of fear. The source suggests you're metabolizing the death trauma of another being. You're processing an emotion that isn't even yours.
It also mentions behavior, right? Not just internal feelings.
Yes. It uses the term insidious behavior, sneaky, underhanded actions, and also just straight up aggressive actions.
That's a huge claim to suggest that human aggression, road rage, sudden outbursts could be fueled by what we're eating.
It loops right back to that you are what you eat idea. If you consume violence and terror, the source argues that energy has to go somewhere. It integrates into your own energy field. It comes out in your behavior.
It's sobering to think we're walking around with these anxieties, thinking they're just of us, when this text suggests they might be imported.
It really challenges the boundary of the self. If our emotions can be influenced by our dinner, we're a lot more porous than we think.
Okay, before everyone listening spirals into dread, because that is a heavy, heavy thing to consider, let's talk about the solution. Is this permanent? If I've been eating meat my whole life, is my receiver just broken for good?
Thankfully, no. The source is actually quite optimistic in the end. It emphasizes the regenerative nature of the body.
Biological hope. I love to hear it.
The text reminds us of a simple biological fact. The material making up the physical body is constantly being exchanged. We're not statues. We're always rebuilding.
And the building blocks for that reconstruction come from?
Whatever you ate recently, the text says, the new building blocks are made from the consumed food. So every meal is a choice. You're the architect of your next body upgrade.
And the recommendation, I'm guessing, goes back to the sun.
Sun-ripened plants, fruits, vegetables, grains. The text says that consuming this type of food makes the body lighter and creates a looser structure.
Looser structure. Sounds almost relaxed. Compared to the dense, fear-tightened structure of meat?
That's the implication. A plant-based structure is less rigid, and this lighter, looser body becomes a more suitable instrument for perceiving subtle information. It cleans the static off the radio dial.
So by shifting your diet, you're not just getting physically healthier, you are literally retuning your instrument. You're making yourself capable of intuition again.
Precisely. It reframes the whole purpose of eating. It's not just fueling the machine, it's tuning the antenna. Do you want to receive the signal, or do you want to block it?
It really makes you look at a salad differently. It's not just fiber and vitamins, it's clarity.
It's condensed sunlight. And according to this text, it's the absence of fear. It is a neutral, high vibration base you can build from.
Wow. This has been quite a journey, from the sun down through entropy into the astral impact of the slaughterhouse and back up to cellular renewal.
It connects a lot of dots. And whether you accept the metaphysical claims completely or not, the internal logic of the energy cascade is, well, it's consistent.
It really is. It forces you to ask, what am I actually absorbing? We tend to be so clinical about food. We count grams of this, calories of that.
Right. We look at nutrition labels for fat and sugar. But there's no label for vibrational frequency or astral residue.
Maybe there should be.
That would certainly change the grocery store.
Can you imagine? Warning. Contains 50% daily value of existential dread.
Exactly. May cause a sudden drop in intuition. But since those labels don't exist, this source encourages us to use our own awareness, to understand that the history of the food, how it lived, how it died, it matters.
It brings us right back to that radio analogy. We're walking around trying to pick up signals, trying to be intuitive, connected. And if this source is right, we might be sabotaging our own reception 3 times a day.
We might be drowning out the music with the static of what we consume, just making it harder on ourselves than it needs to be.
So, as we wrap up, here's the question we want to leave you with. Something to chew on, pun intended, before your next meal.
If your body is constantly rebuilding itself, literally brick by brick, based on what you put into it, what kind of building are you constructing?
Are you building a fortress of anxiety cemented with the fear of another being? Or are you building an antenna light, loose and ready to receive whatever the universe is trying to send you?
The choice, quite literally, is on your fork.
Think about the hidden ingredients. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.